Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of That Millwall podcast. We have today another Who Are You, where we hear the backstories of the Lions fans. Today, having pre-chat with Harrison before going live, I think we might have a bit of an interesting story. But Harrison, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm pleased to be on, to be fair.
Excellent, and as I say, this is an opportunity for us to get to know some fans that we may not necessarily see or may not necessarily get to hear their story. So hopefully, today we'll find out all about Harrison and his Millwall life. Just to start, mate, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Harrison. I've put down that I'm 19. I'm just about to turn 19. I have been a football fan since the beginning of my life. I've always loved watching football. It's basically my escape. Um, I I make music, which I'll touch on later on, and I'll touch on my interesting story as well later on as well.
No, that's absolutely fine. I think it's interesting then when you say that football's a bit of an escape. I think sometimes that's a common theme, whereas people might not necessarily say it, but I think it's something that does take you away from everyday life, and I think it's important to have that.
Yeah, 100%.
Gonna get straight into it. Why Millwall? How did it start?
My family have come from Southeast London. A lot of us, well, most of us, started our lives in Peckham, which, of course, isn't far away from the Den.
Hmm.
Um, we've um, we've always grown up as a Millwall family. It was the closest club to us. We had It was the easiest club to go to back in the day with my granddad and all that. And
Hmm.
through the years, it's just progressed all the way down. And well, now after all these years, I'm still a true Lion. So it literally just football with my family. We've always been a football family, so
Hmm.
Millwall's always been in our blood.
And do you remember your first game?
I I had a long think about this today because I could come on here and blag it and say this was my first game, but it definitely wasn't. But the first game that I thoroughly remember was 3-2 Swindon in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Now, could I say anything about it? Oh, yes, I'm sure, if I'm right, Steve Morrison scored an absolute screamer.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I did think he did, but that was my first game that I remember now, uh,
Hmm.
and what a fantastic game! It absolute packed full of fun that game.
I think as well for a first game because the atmosphere was very. It was very loud. It was very noisy. I think, at one time during the game we actually were in the top two. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that had gone on. So that's quite a good first game. You picked the right winning start. Um, this question's quite interesting actually because obviously what we spoke about off camera. I'm gonna
yeah.
I'm gonna ask you about the new den and where do you sit, but I think there might be another ground that you may like to talk about.
Um, so we'll start off with the Den.
Hmm.
Um, so I I've been brought up in the Den, in the new Den.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I was 11 years too late for the old Den. But the new Den, uh, like right now, I don't live in London anymore. I
Mhm.
live up north near Birmingham. Um, so going back, it still brings the same joy, the same goosebumps. It's wonderful. It is my home. It's our home, and it it's wonderful. The atmosphere is always amazing. Everyone always comes in high spirits, even if we're having a season where we're a bit low down. It's absolutely wonderful. Now it gets to the interesting part.
Throw you under the bus now.
Yeah. So as I said, I do live near Birmingham now.
Hmm.
Um, and I'll be honest, I can't afford to go watch Millwall every weekend.
Hmm.
As much as I'd love to, I financially cannot do it.
Hmm.
So I go to what a lot of us fans would call a rival club. Um, I actually have a season ticket at Birmingham. That was horrible to say, but it, they are. Um, I've said this quite a lot. If any of you have seen my Twitter, I say it all the time. We Millwall and Birmingham are very similar clubs with the size, the way we play, um, the hostility from our old fans, um, just the whole clubs in general. They are very similar, and that's why I picked Birmingham and not Aston Villa, because Birmingham I can relate to as a Millwall fan.
Hmm.
So, um, so one weekend it goes from sitting block 38 in Coldblow Lane and then going to the main stand in St Andrews.
So obviously, I think we can all appreciate that. Traveling from Birmingham to London every other week is probably not viable. Is it? One, it's cost, and two, it's time consuming. Obviously, with other things going on, is it strange to be at another ground quite as much as you are? Are you watching it on your phone, looking for our results? How do you how does it work?
Yeah, so at first it was very very odd because
Hmm.
well, I'm used to the Den, and then walking into St Andrews watching a different team play is very odd. But I will always sit there with my phone in my hand. Well, not always. My phone will always be on loud, and I'll always be checking the scores. And even if I haven't got my phone, behind me are the boxes, and they have Sky Sports on. So I'm always looking out for our scores as well,
Yeah.
like I was on Saturday when Birmingham played Blackburn.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I missed out on a ticket to West Brom, but it it just it made me feel good that I'm watching Birmingham win, but at the same time they are massively helping Millwall out.
Yeah. Of
So
course.
it felt brilliant, but it is very strange, and it's even more strange when you walk in to St Andrews and watch the Millwall players train on the other side of the pitch. That's
I was
weird.
gonna. That was gonna be my next question. Have you been to many games where Millwall have visited St Andrews, and obviously you've been in the home end, and maybe sitting on your hands when Millwall attack just in case they score?
Well, I've been to two at St Andrews versus Millwall, and then a few years back I did do Birmingham at the Den. Um, but it is it's very hard because I sit in because I go with a few a few friends and their family. Um, we sit in the family stand, which
Right.
isn't too bad because if I do celebrate, it isn't going to end up in
Yeah, of
violence.
course. Yeah.
Um, but um, it is very hard to watch your own team play, a team that you go to every week. I went last season to the 2-all that we had.
Hmm.
Spenikophobia scored in the 98th minute. Yeah, I made the mistake of shouting ref when I think it was Leonard. It was it might be Mitchell. Either Leonard or Mitchell got fouled and I shouted ref. And I was the only person in the stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a lot of disappointing looks at that point.
I think, to be fair, it's unique. It's unique. What makes, obviously, being a football fan. You want to get your football fix, but your loyalties obviously lie further down south. But Birmingham's just a
Yeah.
little bit of a release to get some football in as and when you can, I suppose.
Yeah, better than going to watch Shrewsbury or Telford. So
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, as well, I imagine that because it's the same league as us, as you say, on Saturday, Birmingham were playing a side that are direct rivals for us for the playoffs. So,
yeah,
if you do get to some of those games, there's a little bit more in it, and perhaps, as you say, on Saturday, it was a bit more of a cheer when the ball hit the back of the net. So it's a
oh
very
yeah,
unique twist on following Millwall, and I'm sure, um, for the listeners and everyone on Twitter and YouTube, um, he's a lion. He's doing what he needs to get his football fix. So let's be kind.
I am a
Um,
lion, as you can see. Oh no, it's this side. As you can see by the
yeah.
shirt in this shirt, I'm definitely a lion.
So bringing it back to bringing it obviously back to Millwall. When you do come to the Den, when you are able to head down, where do you sit?
So I sit Cold Blow Lane lower.
Yep. Hmm.
I sit in block 38. My dad sat there ever since the new den was opened.
Right.
He's always sat block 38. Um, we I've tried the upper of Barry Kitchener, and in my opinion, well, it just wasn't for me. It
Hmm.
was too high up. I felt like I wasn't in the game, whereas in Coldblow Lane in the lower, I sit directly behind the goal, so
Right.
I feel like 24/7 I'm in the game. I'm always seeing
Hmm.
what's happening, and I feel there's a little bit more atmosphere down there. I could be wrong.
Hmm.
It's been a long time since I've been in the upper, but the atmosphere is impeccable down lower.
It's interesting because I used to sit directly behind the goal at the Den years ago. And me and my dad moved upstairs, so we're in block 10,
Mhm.
literally again directly behind the goal, but in the upper. And the atmosphere, I've sat in the side stands, Dockers and Barry Kitchener for cup games and things as well when they only open up certain parts, and the
Yeah,
atmosphere does feel different. I think a lot of people do say behind the goal the atmosphere is a bit. I think it's because when, and especially in the second half, when they're attacking that goal, you're sort of willing the ball over the line, and you can
yeah,
get right into it.
yeah, 100%. You you're you're basically asking for the ball to come to you behind the
Yeah.
goal. You want that ball in the back of the net. You want it there. So yeah, I feel the atmosphere is a little bit. It's a little bit more hostile, a little bit more
Hmm.
aggressive behind the goal. But I wouldn't change it. No way. So
No.
good. So good.
So obviously, I think you said there you were 19, so you've probably been supporting Millwall through quite a good period for the club, and probably seen some of the better times over recent years. So, a couple of questions to put you on the spot. Who's your favourite player of all time?
Oh, my favourite player, I I would go. I could go many different directions here. Uh, I could go Tim Cahill, even though I think the best run that he's fully had was a few months before I was born. Um, I'd probably say Steve Morrison.
Okay.
I've He got me into football. He showed me what a a true striker is. Him and well, you had him and Harris, and then and him and Lee Gregory as well. It was
Hmm.
he showed how if you just put if you put 100% effort in, you'll get away with it.
Hmm.
Because there are times where he didn't put 101% in
Hmm.
and was still the best player on the pitch. So his attitude, the way he played, and to get up there for on the all-time goal sheet, he's the man. He
I
is the man.
think in recent, I think in recent times, Morrison is very much. I mean, for me personally, again, I mean, I'm now 31, and apart from Neil Harris, I think Morrison was the striker that you felt in the first spell he was going to score every week. When
Yeah,
once he'd got into he settled down a little bit, and I think what he'd achieved is certainly for the younger generation, the younger supporters that are following the club now, definitely someone that people just loved. I know that gets a little bit of stick, but um,
yeah.
I'm pro Steve Morrison, so I quite agree. Um, Again, it possibly trying to think back in your time as following Millwall managers. I mean, we've had some shockers in your time, and we've had some good ones. Who's your
Oh yeah.
favourite?
Um, yeah, we have had some shockers. I could name a few of them. Uh, but yeah, I was really torn between Kenny Jackett and Neil Harris. Um, they both achieved different things with us. They had the same goal, but of course, as every manager does, they have a different way of getting there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've I'm gonna say Neil Harris purely for the fact of he had an ambition when we was arguably on a very very sudden downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he had that vision to get us back to the club that he loved, and that he loved to play for. So I think that the way that he achieved what he wanted with us, with um the first season back in League One, getting a playoff final, and we all know how that went, and then
Mm-hmm.
the second season we're a playoff final, and then winning it with a questionable goal. Um, he and then even in the championship that first year, finishing eighth, he had that drive and he knew how to drive the players on to
Mm-hmm.
be the best of the best. Which unfortunately it took, as it does with most managers, it took a downfall at the end of his Millwall career. But I don't think any of us could thank him enough for how he got us into the position we are now. So I would say that he is my favourite.
I think it's interesting what you said there about the fact that the drive and the determination that Harris had, because he was someone that, and when you listen to him, he understood the club. But understanding it's one thing, but putting your neck on the line, coming back as a legend, and then achieving it again, it kind of shows just what the club meant to him. I think there's so many people that have got so many good things to say about Harris, but he and like similar to what you said about towards the end, every manager in the world goes through a good spell and they might get another job or they might win a trophy, and then the next season they're not doing so well and they're the villain. So
Yeah,
it happens to everybody. And but Harris, as I say, I think Harris was one that those couple of years under him when it was going well, it was special, and it was nice that it was him in charge. I'm
yeah.
gonna slightly lower the tone a little bit. Talking about now bad players, or should we, a little bad players, but should we say that those that possibly didn't get you out of your seat, both in a Millwall shirt and against us, worst players?
So I yesterday I was actually listening to Ricky on here,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure he named a starting 11, if I'm right.
Yeah, he did. He did go for a
Yeah.
lot.
I was like, he did the whole 11, and I was like, well, I'm struggling to get one here. And then I thought about it, and it has to be Kenneth Sahor.
Right. Yeah.
I have watched him numerous times for Millwall, and I've also watched him for West Brom. He When he signed, he seemed to the the way he was bigging up the club and saying this is a good move for him. He seemed to have the determination and the motivation to get going. He just did not fit the club one bit.
No. No.
He, no, he had his style of play was nothing on what we wanted,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then it goes down to the injuries. He had a lot of quite big injuries, which it happens to every player. But with the way he was playing before the injuries, it just no, he just gets put down as a waste of a loan.
I think the problem with players like that is that you know that they've come on big money or bigger money, and whilst we're not paying it all, you still expect them to come with to make us better. And I think there was one game against Preston where he looked really good. It was really, really sharp,
It was, yeah.
and then it just didn't happen again. It just
Mm.
disappeared. And yeah, he was. And I always think as well, when I ask that question, and other people, Ricky aside, I say, who did name quite a few, most
Yeah.
people tend to go for strikers because it's the strikers that are the ones that you expect the most from, and they probably disappoint you the most when it doesn't work out.
Yeah, you know, I had a few in mind after listening to Ricky,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the ones that I was aiming for was David Martin,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that is just a little. That's just a tad bit of heartbrokenness from that Brighton game still,
Yeah, yeah.
and then leaving us for West Ham. So I think it's just a little bit of saltiness. So Kenneth Sahor, he yeah, no, I won't have him back.
And what about opposition players? Anyone that you remember having sort of a bit of a bad game against us, or?
Um, I've got a few in mind. I've got a few of the Charlton lads because I
Yeah.
think that's 20. I think that's 28 years and counting. Um, you've got. I remember going to a Leeds match at the Den a few years back, and they were absolutely terrible. Like I remember Luke Ayling getting torn to shreds by Jed.
Yep.
That was that Luke Ayling. Yeah, that there. Jed had him wrapped around his finger. He was for a player who said, well, at the time, Bielsa said he's a Premier League player, and then to come to the Den and have a performance like he did. I know it could be a one-off, but you can't be
No,
doing
he
that as
is.
a Premier League player. No way.
No. I'm gonna slightly I'm gonna ask a question again on players because I'm gonna bring it a little bit to the current squad. Who's your favourite player in the current team?
I am a very big fan of Zian, as I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of people would be. Um,
Yep.
I saw a goal. I think it was on Twitter last night or this morning of him when he was young. That goal, I know that ain't for us, but it just shows the ability that our players do have.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Bradshaw, this season he's had a monstrous season for us. Um,
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone for Millwall score 2 hat tricks in a season. But Tom, Zian, you even have some of the defenders. Cooper has had a brilliant season as well. So he'd
Mm-hmm.
be put
Yeah.
up there for me. It's a shame because I would have Bart up there because I love Bart. But unfortunately, I think Rowett's trying to push him out the squad,
Mm.
which is quite sad. But now I have to pick one, which I haven't thought about. I will say because of the season he's had, it would be Tom. It'd be Bradders, 100%.
What's interesting there with your the answer to that and how you're talking about the players? There's so many that, for example, that you said as your favourite there, but if you were looking at it from a player of the season, there's so many players that you could vote for because in their own way they've had a good season. They've done their
Well,
own thing to get there.
yeah. I I play FIFA regularly,
Mm-hmm.
and Cresswell was on Team of the Week again for like a fourth time this season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he, if I had to put a player for season, I think as much as he's Leeds and not us, I would personally give it to Cresswell because I think he's been scoring, his defending's brilliant. I wish we could have him. That's what I
Yeah.
think about him. I wish.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Maybe you never know. If the dream happens, it may
Depends how
be.
lenient Leeds be.
Yeah. Gonna sort of talk about maybe some older memories, maybe newer memories. It might be of recent times, but what's your most memorable match involving Millwall?
Um, I I have two in mind. I
Yep.
won't be able to pick through these. Um, but the two that I have would be I did Millwall versus Watford in the fourth round of the FA Cup.
Yep.
Uh, I think that was Steve Morrison who scored that game. That
It
was
was. Yeah.
that was a brilliant game for us, beating a Premier League team.
Mm-hmm.
And 3-2 Everton,
Yep.
which was very interesting in the way of controversial,
Mm-hmm.
but can't complain. We got the win, and we beat another Premier League opposition in the FA Cup.
I always remember with that game the controversy, obviously being Cooper. The second goal was, it probably
handball.
was handball.
Yeah,
We can't really deny it, but they showed it on the screen after, and Neil Harris come on the screen and he was telling them to take it down because he didn't want the ref to see it, because they were showing highlights of Cooper literally like bundling it in with his arm, and
yeah,
little things like that. Though, there was a discussion today on Twitter about the game on Saturday. Obviously, West Brom fans are still unhappy that they didn't get a penalty, and
yeah,
talking about VAR in the Championship. And I think, whilst if you get to the Premier League, fine, you have to have it, you get on with it. But if you had VAR, we wouldn't have that Everton game as a memory for us, because the goal would have been disallowed, and you lose those moments.
yeah. It'd be it would be quite horrible, to be fair, because we wouldn't have, say, the Everton with a handball. We wouldn't have been in the Championship as quick with Steve Morrison's supposed Steve Morrison's offside goal in the playoff
Yep.
final.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot that I think we take quite a. It would benefit us in the way of, whenever I go to games, I watch Jake Cooper get taken down by his shirt every
Yep.
time he goes for a header. We get them, but then we also make some rather silly fouls which we get away with. But if VAR was here, it wouldn't be the same. It would be, we'd be penalised more than we think, and we should be very, very thankful that we haven't got VAR.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not particularly for it anyway. I think in the World Cups and things like that, it's used. Maybe not the last one; it was a bit poor, but the time before, it was very good. It was very good. It was quick. It was efficient. The right decisions were made. But now, when you've got some guy drawing lines on a screen and things like that, that's not football. That's not.
No.
You can't get excited by that. And I think if you do get to the Premier League, you kind of have to take it on the chin that you're going to have VAR, and that's just the way that it is. But I think for the Championship, and especially in those big playoff games and stuff like that, I think it's great that you do. Sometimes you're on the wrong end of it, and you might be thinking, oh, if we had VAR and this, that, and the other. But over the course of a lifetime, I'm pretty sure the decisions go one way and then they go the next. So. And it's interesting that you gave me 2 matches there, and the next question I'm going to ask you is your favourite Millwall moment. I'm going to ask you for one. So you have to narrow it down to one. Is it in one of those?
No, it should be.
Okay.
Because I've never felt a buzz of beating a Premier League team like we did with Everton. But I would have to say, being in Wembley, watching us lift that playoff final cup, that cup, lifting that after we just beat Bradford, that is my best moment. I'd say the most. Yeah, 100%. Words still can't describe it, and that was in 2017.
No, I think, I mean, winning at Wembley is always a big thing, and I think that everything about that, having not done it the year before, it was very, very special. A bit of an interesting, a straight different question here. Funniest Millwall moment? Do you have any sort of funny stories that you can tell us?
So I was thinking about this quite a lot, because I didn't really know what to say. I was quite stuck with this. I have 2, one from a match and one out and about in London. So my one with Millwall, I don't remember what game it was. I think it may have been against Birmingham.
Right.
But Jed Wallace sat on the ball.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
Birmingham. Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
I don't know what player picked him up, but one player picked him up and basically threw him. And I think that is absolutely brilliant.
Mm.
And I'm sure he didn't get a telling off for it either. None of them, which I'm happy with.
No, I think that was at the Den, and we were winning at that time, and he was time wasting and got away
Yeah,
with it massively because the Birmingham player put his hands on Jed, and it took the attention off of him and put it
onto
onto the
play.
defender. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. That as a moment in a game, I think that's quality. There's been a few in and around London with me, such as a group of Charlton fans, a group of West Ham fans, a group of Spurs fans, a group of Arsenal fans, and then me and my dad all singing our team's songs down a tube platform. It started off with the Charlton fans, that are what they were singing, and then you had West Ham singing "Forever Blowing Bubbles," and then it went on and on and on, and then you just have me and my dad at the end singing "No One Likes Us," and we were louder than all them, and they were like groups of 30, and
nice,
yeah,
nice.
absolutely lovely. That could have been dangerous,
So,
but lovely.
yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Really, because you tend to get that when you said there groups of each of the sets of supporters. I'm thinking, oh, here we go. This we can see where this story's going. But sometimes it isn't like that. It is just fans just trying to, support their team, and we'll always outsing anyone at the best
Yeah,
of times. So whether it's 2 or 45,000, we'll do our best to make
we'll
ourselves
have it.
heard.
We'll have it 100%.
I mean, this is it's quite interesting. So obviously, with you based up north, do you have a best away day? Do you get to many away games? Is that possible for you?
Do I count it as an away day? Yeah, technically, it's an away day, but it's also a home day for me. And it would be the best away day for me would be Birmingham Millwall for 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
For many reasons. Um, so of course, I, did we go 1-0? We went 1-0 down. We may have gone 2-0 down, and then
Yeah, I think so.
I think we scored late on to like it's 70, and then there was that controversial penalty from Bennett,
Mm.
and that was in like the 98th minute. But to see players like Lyle Taylor, who is ex Charlton, the manager of Birmingham at the time, Lee Bowyer, ex Charlton.
Mm.
So there was a lot of rivalry there between them. And for us to scrape our way back right at the end and get a point out of it, it's tough, but it's got to be done.
I guess with that as well, I think we really needed to win, didn't we, to keep ourselves in with a realistic chance of the playoffs. But a point was enough to
Yeah,
kind of sort of keep us with a chance, but it was an outside chance. So Bennett scoring the penalty was. I actually was there that day. I was in the away end, and yeah, Bennett's penalty right at that last minute. I think he sort of did a bit of a funny run up as well, and you just thinking, oh
yeah,
God, don't miss it, and he just tucked it into the corner. It was a good penalty in the end.
it was very good, to be fair. Yeah,
This is quite interesting. I'm assuming you'll stick with your Millwall head, but I think there might be an influence here with what we've discussed so far. Your most disliked opponents, and I'll tell you what, I'll merge these I'll merge these together. So you've got your most disliked opponents, so a team that you don't like us playing, and your top 3 rivals.
Okay, so my most disliked opponent has to be Leeds.
Mm-hmm.
We have never got on with Leeds at all. I've been to many Millwall Leeds games and it's never ended well.
No.
I remember listening to Steve Morrison talking about the Leeds fans at the petrol station
Mm-hmm.
after a game. They hate us and we hate them. So I think they would be. They don't go as my top rival, but they
Right.
are definitely my most disliked. For my rivals, anyone could guess the. Any Millwall fan could guess the first two. It's Charlton and West Ham.
Yep.
But then I put Leeds in third because I don't see Crystal Palace as a threat. So it would be, Leeds third. It'd be nice to play. Well, we haven't played any of them in a while, so.
So with your, let's put you in your Birmingham City mode for a little while. If those teams come to St Andrews, and obviously you're going to the game, do you get up for it a little bit more because obviously the dislike as a Millwall fan, or is it just a case of they're playing Birmingham and it's different?
I have been to Birmingham Leeds. That was a very, very interesting game. It was 5-4 to Leeds.
Right.
It was a very good day in a packed St Andrews. I gave them more hate that day than I ever have. It was Charlton. If I was to see them at St Andrews, I'd be like what I am at Den. I'd be wanting to absolutely thrash them. West Ham, unfortunately, I've never been to a West Ham game, West Ham
Mm-hmm.
Millwall, which is a shame. But I've seen and I've heard what's happened at M games, and they wouldn't. I think they wouldn't like it either if they came to St Andrews because it is a very hostile place as well, and
Mm-hmm.
Birmingham are a lot like Millwall, and no one likes them.
No, I can. Yeah, there are similarities. I think, as you say, they're probably a club in terms of in the Championship that are maybe have similar expectations at start of seasons and things like that. So there are definitely some similarities. Coming towards sort of the end, but a couple more questions, a couple of little unique questions that really sort of personal to you. If you could change anything about Millwall, the club, past or present, maybe even in the future, if there's something you'd like to see happen, what would it be?
I'd love to see this redevelopment on the Den.
Okay, that's interesting.
Which is again sad because how the Den is now, that's how I've always known it. But it is the plans if they go ahead, they look very promising. It looks like a team who are fighting and would be respected in the Premier League with a stadium like that.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I mean. It's not just a stadium which does that, but it's always a big part. Um, I don't. I don't think, to be fair, I'd change much else. The club. I love the club for how it is. It's our club, and yeah, it is absolutely amazing.
And now on to yourself. I can see behind you with your that looks like the Ryman shirt. Is
Yeah.
that your favourite shirt of all time, or have you got
Well,
another one?
well, that Roman shirt has a lot to it. That has the FA Cup run.
Mm-hmm.
You had some of the best play. Well, that team in 2004, absolutely amazing. Um, you have Mother's Day Massacre,
Yep.
which is always lovely. And it was also the year I was born, so it's got a lot going for it, that shirt. But if I had to say my favourite shirt, it would be the 1987-88 kit, Teddy Sheringham and Tony Cascarino.
That's
That
interesting. You
kit,
pick a shirt that's not
wonderful.
from your era.
Yeah, I'm sure, if I'm right, this is the kit the year after that kit. I'm sure this is the 88-89 kit or the 89-90. It's one of them. It's absolutely fantastic. That kit, and I won't spoil what I want to because I know what your last question is, and
Yeah.
yeah, what it is will ruin what the next question is. So yeah,
Okay.
that
Well,
kit.
we'll get to it. Finally, the best piece of I was going to ask you because in case you had anything else for other clubs related, but I'm assuming it's I know your answer is now Millwall related. The best piece of Millwall memorabilia that you own.
So there is a backstory to this, which
Hmm.
I might as well tell before I say it. Um, in 1988, we were in Division One, and my dad went with his dad, a few mates, to Norwich away. They went in a
Yep.
pickup truck, and I think the game was 1-1, if I'm right. On the way back, a man in a Porsche had fallen asleep behind the wheel, and that was 1988. That was before central reservations. Um, so they this Porsche driver had swerved wide, he veered into the oncoming lane, and at 70 miles per hour, the pickup truck and the Porsche crumbled together.
Right.
So everyone was in hospital, unfortunately. One of the driver passed away, but they had the whole Millwall squad from 88, 87, 88 go to the hospital in Norwich to go and see them.
Wow.
So I wish I could get off the wall, but I won't be able to get it back up. But I have a picture of Division Two champions of 1988. It's a picture of a whole squad, and it's all signed.
Wow.
So,
That's fantastic.
of course, the two that I love on there, Tony Cascarino and Teddy Sheringham have signed that, and that's always stayed on my wall.
I tell you what we'll do, if you can take a picture of that and send it to me, when this goes out on YouTube, we'll do the edit and we'll show that on the screen at this point. So obviously the viewers at home can have a look at it. I appreciate it's up on your wall, so it'd be tricky to get that down, but that'd be a really cool thing to have a look at. And obviously, unfortunate circumstances. Obviously, with the fella passing away, obviously, condolences. But in something like that kind of story, and I imagine your dad probably will never forget that. Obviously, sometimes for maybe the wrong reasons and the sad reasons, but also for what Millwall did for him there.
Yeah. I don't actually remember who it was. It was a Millwall fan, a comedian. I don't remember who it was. That's not good. Well, a Millwall fan, famous Millwall fan, was actually on the coach behind them.
Right. Okay.
And he stopped and checked out for everyone and made sure if everyone was okay. So yeah. Yeah. So I know now. He always talks about how he thanks the club, and it's absolutely wonderful from him.
It's one of those things, and that's quite a fitting kind of way to end the interview here, where a story that the club, who we do have a little bit of a bad reputation and we don't always get the recognition that we deserve, but when tragic events happen, when one of our own is going through something, the club and the supporters come together and they do support one another and they do things like that. So it's wonderful to hear that the club, obviously, and that was a long time ago. That was before the days of PR and social media and all that kind of thing. So to do it then as well, that's quite a special thing. And I imagine it's quite nice to have that. Obviously, you've got it up on your wall. I'm very proud of it. That is the end of the interview. Harrison, thank you very much for your time. Your stories have been great. The memorabilia has been great. I know we touched on it a little bit earlier. Harrison actually makes some music, so I'm going to let him have a quick sort of tell us all about that.
Yeah, so few years now I've been making music. If you check me out on Twitter, which is at Harrison Banks, not like it says it right in front of me. If you check me out on Twitter, you will get a link to my music. It's, in my opinion, it's not great. I've had a lot of people tell me it is very great, and I would very, very much appreciate if you guys could take a little time out of your busy days, because everyone's busy these days, to go and have a look. Even if you listen for 10 seconds, I will appreciate it. So yeah.
Have you got? Is it? Because I'll be honest with you. I had a quick look before I come on. I do a little bit of research before. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I hadn't clicked through everything. Have you got stuff on YouTube? Is it on Spotify? How where are you?
Yeah. So I'm on. I don't post on my actual YouTube anymore because
Right.
I haven't had time to do any music videos. But I do have a Spotify and Apple Music and YouTube Music. They are Banksy_music. They, yeah, the Spotify, Apple Music, they're the most important. But if you will go over to YouTube Music, be my guest. I'm not complaining. So
what we'll do When this obviously goes out, once it goes out onto YouTube, we'll post the links in. We'll put the links in the description, so anyone that's watching it
Yeah.
can go and click through. Obviously, whether on mobile or laptop, whatever. We'll also get some stuff. Obviously, we'll that Millwall pod account will try and get you some exposure, get them the links tweeted out and stuff as well. So obviously, Millwall fans, check one of our own out. Obviously, it means a lot to him to produce his music. So if we can support Harrison, that would be absolutely great. This has been That Millwall podcast. Who are you? I say this every single time. It's really great for me to speak to fans up and down the country, whether they're young or old, to hear their story. So if you'd like to get involved with it, drop me a message. My Twitter's up on the screen as well, or drop the pod a message and we can get you on. I'm sure Harrison would agree. It's quite easy. We were chatting for a couple of days and it was all booked in, and here we are. So
yeah.
This will go out on YouTube, and it will also go out on Spotify, and I believe all other podcast providers. We'll promote it all out on the pod Twitter account and YouTube and everything when it's going out. As I say, if you like what we do, please give us a like and a subscribe. And as I say, if you're interested in joining us, please get in contact. That's been this Millwall podcast. That's been Harrison. I'm Stephen, and we'll join you next time. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.